Okay, we're going to start off with chapter 0. This is actually just kind of a warm-up for geometry. It's just teaching some things that you're going to use eventually in the rest of the geometry class. It's kind of like just like a starter chapter, I guess you could call it. Well, the first thing we're going to do is talk about this right here, the units of measure. All right, and I've got some units of measure. I've got it. Oops. Got it off to the side here and bring it in there. There you go. I've already got it typed up. So here's some units of measure of length. And we'll talk about this in a second, but you're going to have to know some of these. Some of these you probably know already, especially with the metric system. A lot of people don't like the metric system, but really, it's a lot easier, to tell you the truth, than what the other system is. We'll talk about that in a second. But let's just take a look. These are some things that you need to know. 1 kilometer, or a km, or some people say kilometer, but I think most people would say kilometer. It sounds a little cooler. 1 kilometer, or km, is 1,000 meters. So meter is your main unit of measurement when you're talking about the length in the metric system. So 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters. In fact, if you look in your car on the speedometer or the odometer, you'll see kilometers on there, kilometers per hour. And it's a unit that we measure fairly long distances, and 1,000 meters is 1 kilometer. So M stands for meters, km stands for kilometers. Let's take a look at 1 meter. Now, in class, I can show you a meter stick. It's pretty close to a yardstick. It's just a little bit longer than a yardstick. But 1 meter is 100 centimeters. Centimeters is cm. Centa, C-E-N-T, is the prefix for 100. Like 100 years is a century. So you can remember 100 centimeters is 1 meter. So 1 meter is 100 centimeters. Let's talk about that 1 centimeter. That 1 centimeter is not very big. You just kind of open up your fingers a little bit to a centimeter. 1 centimeter would be 10 millimeters. All right, so 10 millimeters is 1 centimeter. 100 centimeters is 1 meter. So how many millimeters do you think is 1 meter? Well, milli, M-I-L-L-I, is a prefix for 1,000th of something. 1,000 of these millimeters will be 1 meter. So you can see a millimeter is very, very small. And there's 1,000 of these. It doesn't say in this little box right here, but 1,000 of them equals 1 meter. So what we're going to be doing in this lesson right here is changing from one unit to another. I'll give you so many millimeters, you tell me how many meters it is, or how many kilometers, or I'll give you how many kilometers and you tell me how many meters it is, or something like that. So let's take a look at an example that's in the book, and we'll just stick with the metric and first for the first example, and then we'll show you a different unit of measurement after the metric system. All right, so the first one would be 4.2 kilometers. This is right in the book if you want to follow along. So let's write that down. 4.2 kilometers. All right, this is the first time I've written on this little tablet this since the summertime, so my writing's going to be a little bit more sloppy than normal, but let's do this. Let's change the color of it just to be a little different, and I want to change how thick my writing is. I thought I did that earlier, but there we go. 4.2 kilometers, and what we want to do is figure out how many meters is 4.2 kilometers. How many meters? Now let's think about it. What is a kilometer? A kilometer is really big. I mean, they even run a race, like if you run cross country, you run a 5K. The K stands for kilometers. So this is a little bit smaller than what you would, a little bit shorter than what you would run a cross country race. So how many meters is this many kilometers? Well, what kind of number is this going to be? Is it going to be smaller than 4.2? Is it going to be close to 4.2? Is it going to be bigger than 4.2? Well, if you just think about what these units are, what these measurements are, it takes a lot more meters to make a kilometer. So that kind of gives you an idea if you're doing it right. Now I'm going to show you a way that I used to teach out of another book, and this is the way they taught you, and I really like this way. This is a little bit different than what they do in this book, but I like this. First thing I do, we call these things right here unit multipliers. If you remember, if you multiply anything by 1, the answer is exactly the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that 4, oops, again, bear with me on my writing right here, 4.2 kilometers. I'm going to put it over top of 1. What I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply it by something, What do I want to get rid of? I want to get rid of the kilometers and I want to change it to meters. So watch what I'm going to do. If I have kilometers on top, I'm going to put kilometers on the bottom. Now just bear with me, you'll see how this works. So if I multiply these two fractions together, the kilometers will actually cancel each other out. Well, what do I want to change it to? I want to go directly from kilometers to meters. Now, do I know how many kilometers equals how many meters? Yep, look up here in my little chart. 1 kilometer equals 1,000 meters. So look what I'm going to do. What number am I going to put with the meters? I'm going to put 1,000 because 1,000 meters is how many kilometers? It's 1 kilometer. So I put a 1 right here. Now there's other ways to do this, but I like this way because when things get a little more complicated, you're going to see that this is a really good way to do this. All right, so let's see what we're going to do. Watch what happens. The kilometers cancel out. That's why I did that, because if I have kilometers on top, I want to have kilometers on the bottom, and I'm left with meters. Now, what do I do with these two numbers? They're both on the top of my fraction, so that means I just multiply them together. Now, the nice thing about the metric system is you're just dealing with powers of 10. Either you're multiplying by powers of 10 or dividing by powers of 10, which means all you do is move your decimal place over. So what it is this. Watch, it's 4.2. We won't use parentheses. Let's just use let's use a dot since I used the dot before. 4.2 times 1,000. So that's what we're doing because we know our answer is going to be in meters. So how do I multiply? Let's put the x. 4.2 times 1,000. What do we do when we multiply by a power of 10? We move the decimal to the right, the number of zeros, the number of places that you have zeros. So I have 3 zeros right here, so I move this decimal 3 places to the right. So it was 4.2, and now I have to move it to the right 3 places. Move it once, but what do I need here? I need a couple zeros because I moved it once, I moved it twice, and I moved it 3 times, so the decimal is going to go right here, so it'll be 4,200 meters. Okay? You'll get the gist of this after we do some more because at first you may look at this and it looks a little bit weird, but after you do a few of these, it'll make sense. I really like the idea of whatever you're trying to get rid of, that's what you put in the bottom. I'm trying to get rid of kilometers, so I put kilometers down the bottom. Now, why in the world could I use this right here? Why could I multiply by this thing? Because 1,000 meters is equal to 1 kilometer. These two things are exactly the same. So if I have something on the top that's exactly the same as what's on the bottom, it's just something over itself. What is anything divided by itself? Well, it's equal to 1. It's not 1 meter, it's not 1 kilometer, it's just the number 1. I'm allowed to multiply anything by the number 1, and it's not going to change the value. All right, so this is called a unit right there. Let's write it down. It's called a unit multiplier. All right, it's a unit multiplier. So the reason, let me say this, the word unit right here means 1, so I'm multiplying by 1, and I can multiply anything by 1. It just happens to be a 1 that the kilometers cancel out. I'm left with meters. I figure out how many meters equals a kilometer, and I'm good to go. Well, let's do some more. All right, let's talk about the other system of units that we have. The other was the metric system. We call this one the English unit of length. This is the one that Americans use, and almost I think we're about the only country that uses this this system, this English system. Almost the whole entire world uses the metric system. But anyway, we use it quite a bit, and so let's just talk about this for a sec. 1 foot, you all know what 1 foot is, and you have rulers all the time. Almost all the little rulers that you have at your desk, you put in your book bag, are 1 foot, and that's 12 inches. 1 yard is 3 feet, and 1 mile is 5,280 feet. You probably knew this already. 12 inches is a foot, 3 feet is a yard. And you probably learned this as well. It may not be quite as familiar to you, but that's one that you should have memorized. 5,280 feet is 1 mile. All right, so let's do, I'll tell you what, I've got a little picture here just to kind of demonstrate that. What do we use yards and all that kind of thing? Well, here's a picture. Looks like a football field, but what looks I picked this picture just to be a little bit different. If you look at this football field, if you know anything about football, what's different about this football field? Well, look, usually in American football anyway, you have a 50-yard line that goes right down the middle. But this doesn't. This has two 50-yard lines and then this center line right here. This is actually Canadian football. They have a longer field. And you look at the end zones are actually twice as long or wide, whatever. No, I guess you would say long as the American football field. So anyway, but these are all in yards, even though in Canada they use meters and kilometers for about everything. This is still, they still use their yards for their football field. I just thought that was kind of interesting, so I kind of threw that in there. All right, let's talk about this. Let's do a little conversion of feet and inches with the English system, okay, that kind of thing. Actually, we're going to do feet and yards. So here's an example. Again, it's right from the book. Let's see what they give you. They give you 39 feet. And what you need to do equals, and then they have a blank right here. They actually have a question mark in that blank. And they say how many yards. 39 feet equals how many yards. Well, let's do this again. I always take 39 feet or whatever I'm starting with, and I always put it over 1 to make it a fraction, because we're going to multiply it by a unit multiplier. We just have to figure out what that unit multiplier is. Well, again, what am I trying to get rid of? I'm trying to get rid of the feet, and I'm going to try to change it from feet into yards. So that means what needs to be on the bottom? Well, the bottom has to cancel out with the top. So if they cancel each other out, they have to be the same thing. So if I have feet on the top, I'm going to put feet on the bottom. And what am I changing it to? I'm changing it to yards, and that needs to be on top. So whatever you're changing it to, that needs to be on top. Whatever you're trying to get rid of, that's what you put on the bottom. Now let's look up here and see what equals what. How many yards equals how many feet? Well, if you look right here, it tells you exactly that 1 yard equals 3 feet. So I put 1 with the yard and 3 with the feet because they have to equal each other. 1 yard has to equal 3 feet, and they do. This is my unit multiplier. It's basically just the number 1 because it's something divided by itself. So now what I can do is this. I can cross out the feet because they cancel out. One's on top, one's on the bottom. Now look what I'm going to do here that I didn't do on the other problem. This is 39 on top, but what's on the bottom here? It's not just a 1 times 1 like the other problem. This is 1 times 3, which is 3. And your units are going to be in yards. I'm not going to keep it like this because this simplifies. This reduces very, very nicely. 3 goes into 3 once and a 9 3 times, so that's 13. So that goes 13 yards. So if I threw something, if I ran, if I did whatever, okay, walked 39 feet, it's the same as walking 13 yards. That's a unit conversion with the English unit this time. So let's try some other type of, these are all lengths, okay? The other one was length and this one is length. Let's try another type. Instead of length. Let's look at something a little different. Well, before we go on to the next thing, I just looked at the book and we have a couple more examples. Let's do just a couple more examples. We'll do them a little faster this time. And this is one with the, what was I going to say? One with the metric system and one with the English system. So let's do this one. They say 17 millimeters equals how many, question mark, let's see, meters. So we're changing from millimeters to meters. They say this is going from a smaller unit to a larger unit. We're going from small to big. So millimeters is very, very small. Meters is rather large, okay? So I'm going to have a lot less than 1 meter if I have 17 millimeters. So let's just do the work like we talked about. 17 millimeters, put that over 1 and do that every single time, times another fraction. This is my unit multiplier. I'm trying to get rid of millimeters, so I put it on the bottom. I'm trying to change it from millimeters to meters, so I put meters on the top. If you go back to your chart and look, how many meters equals how many millimeters? Well, 1,000, I don't think it says it directly on the chart, but we talked about how to figure out how many millimeters is a meter. 1,000 millimeters is 1 meter. So let's see what happens. The millimeters cancel out. This is a division again. It's 17 over 1,000. Now you don't need a calculator and you're left with meters. You don't need a calculator for this at all. You can do this in your head very, very easily. Look, you've got 17. You're dividing by 1,000. Division means that you move the decimal place to the left. Multiplication, you would move the decimal place to the right. This, you're moving the decimal place to the left. Look how many zeros there are. There's 3, so you move it to the left 3 places. So your decimal would be right here normally. We're going to move it to the left 3 places. 1, 2. Now we need something else here, don't we, to move it over? We need a 0. So remember, it was here. We moved it once, twice, 3 times right there. We're left with meters. So look, it's a very small number for meters. 0.017, which is very small, of a meter is 17 millimeters. And that makes sense. 17 millimeters is very small. This is 17 1,000th of a meter, okay? And that's very small as well. So they are equal to each other. It's the same exact number. All right, let's take another one. 6,600. Let's do another color here. All right, let's just put it right here. 6,600. Now this one's a little tougher. 6,600 yards. And I'm going to change that to miles. If you look in your little chart, it doesn't go directly from yards to miles. It doesn't tell you how many yards equals how many miles. Let's move this up a little bit. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to do a second unit conversion. All right, so we always start off like this. 6,600 yards, put it over 1. And now what we're going to do is we can't go directly from yards to miles according to our chart that we wrote down a little earlier. So what I'm going to do is figure out what I can go to. Well, I can go from yards. If you look at your chart, it tells you how many yards equals how many feet. And then it tells you how many feet equals how many miles. So I'm going to have that in-between unit multiplier. So if I have yards on the top, I'm going to have yards on the bottom. And then I'm going to have miles on the... Oh, sorry. Not miles. I have feet on the top. So I'm going to go from yards to feet. Remember, I can't go from yards to miles. I have to take yards to something that I know that I can take to miles. And feet is that thing. I know how many feet or how many yards equals how many feet, and I know how many feet equals how many miles. So we're going to have like an in-between unit multiplier in here, a second one. Now, how many feet does equal how many yards? Well, 3 feet equals 1 yard. You have to do it like that. You have to put the 3 with the feet and the 1 with the yard, or it wouldn't make sense. You can't say 1 foot equals 3 yards because it's not the same unit of measurement. The yards cancel out. And let's see what we have here. Now we have feet. What can I change feet to? I can change feet to miles. So I'm going to put the feet down on the bottom and the miles on the top. Remember, the feet on the bottom so they can cancel out. So now you can look in your chart and say, oh, how many miles equals how many feet? Well, 1 mile equals 5,280 feet. All right. Now look what happens. The feet on the top, feet on the bottom, they cancel out. What am I left with? I'm left with miles, and that's what I was trying to do in the first place. So now we can write this down. 6,600. I'm going to put this in parentheses. Times 3 times 1. We don't really need the 1 there, but we do have something on the bottom. We have that 5,280. I'm going to put that right there. Now this is in miles. Now I'm not going to leave it like this. Now I can't do this one in my head. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it into a calculator and see what I get. And I believe you get, I'm just looking at the book right here, but I believe you get 3.75 miles. I'll let you put that into a calculator yourself. 3.75 miles. That's how many miles 6,600 yards. 6,600 yards is about, not about, I think exactly 3.75 miles. Well, I was about to go on to the next problem. I thought I might as well show you how to do this on the calculator. So I've got a calculator right here, and let's put that in. 6,600 times 3, and then you're going to take that and divide it by 5280. So divided by 5280. Let's see what we get. Look at that. Perfect. 3.75. I just would have felt bad if I didn't show that to you. So there it is. All right, I think you basically have the idea of what we're trying to do here. I'm just going to go through some other types of units. This is of capacity, how much something can hold, okay, or volume, I guess you could call this. So the metric would be in liters. You've seen liters. You buy 2-liter sodas. You know what a 1 liter basically is. So it's 1,000 milliliters. Again, it's a nice way of, you know what? I think I spelled milliliters wrong. I sure did. Anyway, there's supposed to be two L's there. I'm glad I caught it. So anyway, you can change that if you want. So 1 liter is 1,000 milliliters, and that's an easy. Again, metric is really nice because everything's in powers of 10. This is the one, I tell you what, to this day, I tend to forget some of these right here. Okay, I know feet and inches and all that, but the English units of volume or capacity, I have a tendency to forget. So you're going to have to study it as well as myself. So let's take a look. You know what a cup is, right? When you do recipes and stuff, you'll see a lot of these units. 1 cup is 8 ounces, fluid ounces. FLOZ is what we use to abbreviate that, or just OZ would be fine. So 8 ounces is 1 cup. Now, if you had 2 cups, that's 1 pint. So 2 cups, if I double this, that's 1 pint. Of course, that would be 16 ounces, wouldn't it? All right. So now, if I have pints and I double that, 2 pints is 1 quart. Now, if I double that, the quarts, or if I actually quadruple the quarts, 4 quarts is a gallon. So if you have 1 gallon, it's a gallon of milk. Okay, everybody's familiar with that. That would be 4 quarts. Here's just a couple pictures I put on here just to show you that that we deal with liters all the time. This would be a 2-liter bottle. This is, I think, probably a 1-liter bottle. And this is somewhere smaller than the 1 liter. I'm not sure exactly. Maybe looks like this one's a 12 ounce, and it tells you how many milliliters it would be. And you see that kind of stuff all the time. Okay, here's the English system of capacity or volume, and you're used to seeing this all the time. 1 gallon of milk or a half gallon, or you buy a quart or a pint, or you talk about ice cream. It's usually in one of those types of measurements. So that's something, again, that you're familiar with. You're probably just as familiar with the metric system as you are the English system, maybe more so with the metric. All right, let's do a couple examples with the capacity. So let's start off. Again, these are straight from the book. 3.7 liters. We'll use capital L for liters. And we want to find out how many, question mark, milliliters. Now, a lot of times, the book uses capital L. I would probably use like a cursive L for liters and a cursive L for milliliters like this. But the book uses the capital, so I'm going to use the capital for right now. So let's start off. Let's do these a little quicker than we've been going. Let's put that over 1, just like we've been doing. Now we're trying to get rid of liters, so we put it on the bottom. And we do know how many milliliters is 1 liter. There's 1,000 milliliters in 1 liter. The liters cancel out. Multiplying by 1,000 is easy. You move that decimal 3 places to the right. Move it once here. Move it 2 more times. You have to put a couple zeros on there, so it's 3,700 milliliters. Now let's do another one. Let's change colors here. Let's go with the English system. Let's go quarts. 16 quarts. That's supposed to be a Q. My Q's, people tell me that I make them kind of funny. And it's how many gallons. Okay, so we all know about quarts and gallons. So let's see how many gallons is 16 quarts. Well, I'm going to go 16 quarts, and I'm going to put it over 1. Now, if in our little chart, did you see quarts and gallons? Okay, I didn't. Let's see. Well, sorry about that. I got a little confused. 16 quarts. You do have quarts and gallons. If you look at your little, here we go. Let's put this right here. I told you sometimes I forget myself, so I'll put it right there so that we can see. And do we have quarts and gallons? We do. Look, 4 quarts equals 1 gallon. So we can go directly. We don't have to do that in between thing. So I can go get rid of quarts. That's Q for quart. And then I can put gallons up here. Put quarts on the bottom so they cancel out. Now, how many quarts equals how many gallons? Well, 4 quarts equals 1 gallon. So this is a division. Quarts cancel out. I have 16 on the top and 4 on the bottom, and I know my answer is going to be in gallons. So you just simplify this. They made this real easy for you. 16 divided by 4 is 4, and that would be 4 gallons. So if you had 16 quarts of something, you have 4 gallons of that liquid. Let's try another one that's a little bit trickier. So it's going to be, oops, that 7's ugly. Let's try it again. 7 pints. And we want to change that to ounces. So equals, question mark, fluid ounces. Talk about a weird Q. My Z is kind of weird too. That's a Z. Fluid ounces. So now, do we have something that goes exactly from pints to ounces? This is the only ounces I have. I know from cups to ounces. I don't know pints to ounces, but I do know cups to pints. So look what we're going to do. We're going to go, start off with pints. So I'm going to go pints to cups to ounces. Do you see that? Start off with pints, then I'm going to go to cups, change it to cups, and then from cups I'm going to change it to ounces. I can't go directly from pints to ounces, so that's what I'm going to do. So I put 7 pints on the top, and again, what am I going to change that to? I'm going to change it to cups. So pints goes on the bottom, cups goes on the top. All right, how many cups? 2 cups equals 1 pint. How did I get that? From here. Look, 2 cups, 1 pint. So that those numbers have to go just like that. Now, I'm done with pints. Now I have cups. Now can I change from cups to ounces? Absolutely, right here. Cups to ounces. Now, if cups is on top, I need cups on the bottom so they cancel out, and I want to change to ounces. I'll just put OZ for ounce. How many ounces is 1 cup? Well, 8 ounces is 1 cup. And now I can just work this. This is all multiplication, because since I have all ones on the bottom, oops, the cups cancel out. What I can do is just multiply those together. I can go 7 times 2, which is 14, times 8, which is 112. You can do that on a calculator if you wanted to, I guess. So let's say it equals 112 ounces. All right, so 7 pints is 112 ounces. I went from pints to cups to ounces. All right, this next one, I'm going to start with gallons. So 4 gallons, and I want to see how many pints. How many pints is 4 gallons? Well, look up here. Can I go directly from gallons to pints? No, I can't. I can go directly from gallons to quarts, but not to pints. But look what I can do. I can go gallon to quart, and then from quarts to pints. So it's going to be very similar to what we just finished doing. Let's do that right here. So put 4 gallons over 1, I always like to do that, times, now I'm trying to get rid of gallons, so I put that on the bottom. What can I change gallons to? I can change gallons to quarts. So I'm going to change to quarts first before I get to pints. How many quarts? 4 quarts equals 1 gallon. Make sure you put the right numbers with the right unit. And now I can change from quarts to pints right here. So quarts is going to go on the bottom, so I get rid of that. I'm going to change it to pints, put that on the top. How many pints? 2 pints. How do I know that? Right here. 2 pints equals 1 quart. So I put 1 with the quart. Again, this is nice and easy because I don't have to do any division. So I'm just going to go multiply across the top. Well, I like to cancel these out. I should have done that earlier. The gallons cancel, the quarts cancel. I'm left with pints. So you just multiply your numbers. 4 times 4 is 16, times 2 is 32, and it's 32 pints. All right, let's do one more unit. I'm going a little bit longer than I really wanted to, but we're almost finished. Just bear with me. Okay, this is the last unit that we're going to do. This is mass. If you talk about science, there's a little bit of a difference between mass and weight, but for all we're concerned about is it's how heavy something is. Okay, let's just say with that. If you get into science, you get a little more technical, but for our sakes, we'll just say how heavy something is. We measure that in kilograms. Kilograms is like your main unit for the metric system. So 1 kilogram, kilo is 1,000 of something, is right there, 1,000 grams. All right, so 1,000 grams is 1 kilogram. All right, if you just have 1 gram, milli, again, I think I spelled that wrong. I think there should be 2 L's in there. Yes, there should be, my fault. 1,000 milligrams, a milligram is very, very small, is only 1 gram. A gram's pretty small in and of itself. All right, but there you go. What about this? 1 pound, and we're used to that kind of talk right there. We know about pounds and ounces and stuff. Now, this is not a fluid ounce. This is actually how much something weighs, not how much space something takes up. But 1 pound is 16 ounces. 16 ounces is 1 pound. So if you get a steak and it's a 16 ounce, you're eating a pound of meat. All right, 16 ounces. Now, a ton, that weighs a ton. Well, ton is an actual unit of measurement. It's 2,000 pounds. So if you have 2,000 pounds, you have 1 ton. Wouldn't you agree with me? It's much easier with the metric system because all you have to do is know your prefixes, and you know exactly. If I told you how many grams is a kilogram, you probably could have told me 1,000 because you know kilo. Kilo means 1,000. All right, 16 ounces, 1 pound. They're kind of weird. Metric system, it's a little bit easier. All right, enough of that. Let's go ahead and do a couple examples, and we will finally be finished this first lesson. Again, this lesson probably took me a little bit longer than most of the lessons will. There's a little more stuff packed into this lesson, first of all, and it's my first one after the summer teaching, so maybe I'll streamline it a little bit better next time. Here we go. Same idea. 5.47 kilograms is how many milligrams? Well, let's see. Can we go directly from kilograms to milligrams? Nope. We're going to go from kilograms to grams, and then we're going to go grams to milligrams. So this is where we do that in between thing. 5.47 kilograms. I'm going to put that over 1. Now, what can we change kilograms to? Look here. We can change kilograms to, oops, got messed up there. Kilograms to grams. So we can change directly from kilograms to grams. Let's do that. If kilograms is on the top, kilograms is on the bottom. I hope you're getting used to that now. Whatever you're trying to get rid of, you're going to put that on the bottom so they cancel out. And we're going to change that to grams. I know it says milligrams, but we got to do that in between step. Now, how many grams? 1,000. 1,000 grams is 1 kilogram. So we're done with kilograms. They canceled out. Now we're left with grams. Can I change grams to milligrams? Absolutely, right here. So let's do that. So grams is on the top, so I put it on the bottom so it cancels out, and we're going to change that to milligrams. How many milligrams? 1,000. Again, look at the top of this. 1,000 milligrams is 1 gram. This is one of those other ones that works out real nice for us because I don't have to do any division. And what's even nicer about this, it's all metric, it's all powers of 10. I don't need a calculator or to sit there with pencil and write a bunch of stuff down. Look at it, 1,000 and 1,000, that's 6 zeros. So what am I going to do here? I'm going to take this decimal and move it to the right 6 places. Well, I move it once here, twice here, so I need 4 more zeros to get that 6 places. So it's going to be 547 and then 4 zeros. Do you see that? I went from here, I went 6 places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Grams canceled out. We're left with milligrams, and so that's my answer. Wow, that's a lot of milligrams. In fact, it's 5,470,000 milligrams is 5.47 kilograms. That's what I love about the metric system, is that you just move decimals, stick zeros in there. It makes life easier. It really does. Okay, let's go with this unit, and we'll be finished. 5 tons. Okay, that's pretty heavy. Remember, 1 ton is 2,000 pounds. So, but we're not going to change it to pounds. That would be too easy. We're going to change that to ounces. Now think about this. Ounce is very, very small. A ton is very, very big. So there's got to be a whole bunch of these. I was going to say a ton of these, but actually more than a ton of these. There's going to be a whole bunch of ounces equals 5 tons. So let's do what we've always done. Let's scooch that up just a little bit. So I'm going to go 5 tons, put it over 1 times. Now, what can I change it to? I can change tons to pounds and then pounds to ounces. Hopefully you're getting used to that now. Tons is on the top, tons on the bottom. And we're going to change it to what? We're going to change from tons to pounds. So I'm going to put pounds right there. LB. Don't ask me how they got LB. I actually looked it up one time on Google. You can do that. I just forget the reasoning for it. But anyway, it's LB for pounds. So the tons will cancel out. Well, let's put some numbers in here. How many tons? 1 ton equals 2,000 pounds. The tons cancel out. Now I've got pounds, and I want to change that to what? Ounces. Can I do that? Sure. I can go now from pounds to ounces. And let's do that. Pounds is on the top, put pounds on the bottom. Put ounces on the top. How many ounces? 16 ounces equals 1 pound. So the pounds cancel out. Again, this is nice because you got just all ones down here. It doesn't always work out that nice, but this time it does. So now what we're going to do is just going to multiply all those together. That's going to be, what, 5 times 2, that's 10. That's 10,000 times 16, so that's going to be 160,000. Math wasn't too bad. You could do that on a calculator if you really wanted to. And then there you go. Remember I told you it'd be a whole bunch of ounces equals 5 tons, and that's a whole bunch, I would say, wouldn't you? 160,000. All right. Here's what I want you to do in class. We'll call it homework, but it's actually not homework because remember we're flipping the classroom. So this is going to be your the work that you're going to do in class tomorrow, and it's going to be, they call this is like chapter 0, so they call it P5. So it's page P5. All right, so you'll see it. It's under lesson 01, and we're going to do all the ones at the bottom, 1 to 27. That shouldn't be too bad. 1 to 27. That is your homework. All right, that's it. Until the next lesson.